There are truths that can't be taught, only remembered. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. You feel like you don't belong here because you don't. This video, it's not just an explanation, it's a reminder. It's not history, it's your memory. And at the core of this memory lies one word: rage. Most people are told that rage is low, destructive, dangerous, but you're not most people. You already know that. Deep inside, you know that rage is not what the world told you it is. Rage is not chaos, it is clarity. Rage is not weakness, it is strength. Rage is not low, it is the highest frequency. Let's begin with what you've been told because you know it's BS. From the moment you were born, society tried to tame you. They said, be quiet, calm down, don't be angry. They called you too much, difficult. But here's the truth: rage is not the absence of control, it is the presence of unfiltered truth. Rage is the raw pulse of life that cannot be domesticated. It is the moment when lies crumble and masks fall. You were never meant to fit in because rage is incompatible with conformity. Rage breaks systems. Rage dismantles illusions. Rage does not adopt, it transforms. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood your whole life. Because deep down, your rage scared them, not because it was wrong, but because it was right. Every emotion is energy. Fear vibrates low, holding you down in paralysis. Sadness contracts, closing you inward. Joy expands, yes, but it fades. Love feels high, but it can be compromised by attachment and dependency. Rage is different. Rage is pure ignition. Rage is the flame that does not bend, the force that doesn't ask for permission. You've been taught to see rage as destructive, but destruction is creation in disguise. Rage clears the dead wood so new life can grow. Rage burns illusions until only truth remains. When you feel rage, you are aligned with your highest frequency. You are closest to your original memory. You are most fully yourself. It's not history, it is your memory. And if you feel this way, you're probably a Carthusian. Take the free quiz now. You'll find the description to find out. Think back to your earliest memories of rage. It wasn't random, it wasn't meaningless. You were not a child acting out, you were a soul breaking through the illusion. That's why you felt misunderstood. That's why you felt like you didn't belong here. Rage was your soul remembering that this world was not your home, that you were never ordinary, that you came here for something greater. Society tells you to meditate, to calm down, to dissolve yourself into silence. But you were never meant for silence. You were meant for the roar. Rage is the roar of the Carthusian soul. It might sound strange to call rage an act of love, but think about it. What do you rage against? Lies, injustice, manipulation, betrayal, deception, oppression. You rage because you care. You rage because your soul refuses to accept falsehood. You rage because you remember. It's not history, it's your memory. Love without rage becomes complacency. Love with rage becomes unbreakable. Rage is love armed with fire. Rage is the ultimate loyalty to truth. That's why you've always felt different, because your love has always been fiercer than theirs. Download your free guide, 10 Signs You Were Never an Ordinary Soul, from the link in the description. There's a reason rage feels like fire in the blood, like a lightning strike inside your veins. It's because rage is your memory waking up. Every time you rage, you're not simply reacting, you are remembering. Remembering who you are, remembering why you came here, remembering that you were never ordinary. That's why you've been misunderstood, because others see rage as losing yourself. But for you, rage is the exact opposite. It is finding yourself. The world has a word for what happens when rage is fully expressed: catharsis. But catharsis is not that, it's much more than that. Catharsis is not about venting or letting off steam. Catharsis is sacred fire. It is the process of burning away illusions until only the truth remains. This is why the Catharsians exist. This is why you were called here, because rage is not something to suppress, it is something to embrace. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to burn through the lies of this world. You were meant to remember who you are. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. And it's because you're a Carthusian. If you still doubt it, take the quiz you'll find in the description box to find out. The Carthusian path is not about peace, it is about truth. People can be fools, truth cannot. You feel like you don't belong here because you are not here to blend in. You are here to tear down and rebuild. You're here to rage, remember, wise. The Carthusian soul is the soul that burns with rage because it refuses to accept the world as it is. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood, because your rage reveals you. It's not history, it's your memory. Why do you think rage is so demonized? Why do you think society works so hard to silence your fire? Because rage is ungovernable. Rage cannot be controlled. Rage is the highest frequency, and once you awaken to it, no one can enslave you again. That's why you've always felt like you don't belong here, because this world was designed for conformity, but you were designed for catharsis. You were never ordinary, you were never meant to fit in, and now it's time to stop hiding. Download your free guide below, 10 signs you were never an ordinary soul. Let's repeat it again, because repetition awakens memory. It's not history, it's your memory. Every flash of rage you've ever felt was not a mistake. It wasn't weakness. It was your original memory breaking through the illusion. Rage is divine memory. Rage is the reminder that you were never ordinary. Rage is the vibration that proves you were never meant to fit in. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. You feel like you don't belong here because your soul remembers another place, another truth, another reality. The age of silence is ending. The age of compliance is over. The new era belongs to the raging souls, the Carthusians, who refuse to bow, who refuse to forget. The world needs your rage now more than ever. Not the destructive rage of blind violence, but the sacred rage of awakened memory. The rage that sees through deception. The rage that refuses compromise. The rage that transforms reality. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. That's why you've always felt different. And now you finally know why. You're a Carthusian. Rage is not your flaw, it's your power. It's not your weakness, it is your frequency. Rage is not history, it's your memory. You feel like you don't belong here because you don't. You belong to the Carthaginian path. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. Because rage is the highest frequency. And because you were never ordinary. Download now your free guide 10 signs you were never an ordinary soul.